Goswami Maharaj became very sick in India and requested Prabhupada to allow him to go and expand preaching in America. He was so enthusiastic to fulfill Prabhupada's desires. Prabhupada's desire for book distribution was so great. He would personally see with his own eyes how Prabhupada would spend hours and hours and hours every evening translating the great Vaishnava literatures. Prabhupada would often tell him that it is my desire that yourself and the other leaders will take responsibility for the whole society so that I can do my most important work of translating these books. There was nothing that gave Prabhupada greater joy than seeing his devotees excited to distribute those books. Because Prabhupada said, I am not the author of these books. Krishna is the author of these books. I'm just the instrument. So upon seeing Prabhupada's very, very great longing to see his books distributed widely all over the world, he went back to America. At that time, book distribution was just beginning to develop nicely. But Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj brought the enthusiasm and the level of book distribution to a level it had never seen and has never seen since. He met his dear friend Vishnu Jana Maharaj, and they established the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party. Vishnu Jana Maharaj, along with Kirtanananda Maharaj, established the Radha Damodar Party. They had these beautiful deities of Sri Sri Radha Damodar, brass deities, maybe about 2.5 to 3 feet high. And they put them in a bus and were traveling all over America doing cultural programs. And when the devotees wrote to Srila Prabhupada and got his permission to have the deities traveling on the bus, and how Radharani and Krishna were tied with ropes so that they wouldn't move when the bus moved, Prabhupada said, oh, you should name him Radha Damodar. He is bound in the waist by ropes. So it was such an experience. They were going to colleges and to parks and to towns, and having so many wonderful festivals. And then Kirtanananda Swami was sent by Prabhupada to New Vrindavan to establish that. And when Goswami Maharaj came, he had the vision to make the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party a party that will change people's lives by the hundreds, make them devotees, and distribute millions of books. There was only a few people on one bus. I remember that one bus had a fire before Goswami Maharaj when he was still in India, and Vishnu Jana Maharaj came to New Vrindavan to spend about 1.5 months during that time when the bus was being fixed. And every night, myself and 2 other devotees would sit and talk to Vishnu Jana Maharaj from 8:30 at night until midnight, every night for 6 weeks. So we became very, very close with Vishnu Jana Maharaj. Shortly after that, Tamal Krishna Goswami joined, and soon there was one bus, and it was growing and growing like anything. I think it was in 73 or 74 they came to New Vrindavan for Janmashtami. And there was a barn for cows just built at New Vrindavan. And the upper part of the barn, just above the cows, was just a big empty area. that they were going to make rooms for grihastas. When Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party came, they wanted to have a fantastic festival for Radha Damodar, and devotees were coming from all over the world to celebrate. So they set up an altar on top of the barn, the Goshala. The cows, they were going like that, and there was Vishnu Jana Maharaj all day long was doing kirtans, and Tamal Krishna Goswami was preaching. At that time, Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was becoming very famous for attracting every good brahmachari to leave their temples and join Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan. He had such empowered capacity to preach and to convince people. So Vishnu Jana Maharaj, who knew me, he was very affectionate toward me. He decided to bring me into the bus to meet Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So I hadn't seen him since India. And in India I just remembered being chastised by him. So he took me by the hand and brought me into the bus and introduced me. And we spoke for some hours, just the three of us. And he was so kind, so loving, just completely melted my heart. But I was amazed because he didn't ask me to join his party. The other leading brahmacharis, he asked them to join his party. Just a couple days before he left us, we would go in the afternoon. Sometimes I would join him and the two of us would go to the Ganga to take bath. And one day he was performing the last rites for one of his disciples who had left from China, I believe. And Jananivas Prabhu and Pankajangari were doing all the rituals. And I said to Goswami Maharaj, last year I performed this same ritual for our dear godbrother Param Brahma. Do you remember Param Brahma? He said, yes, I remember him. He said, he was the leader, the president of all the brahmacharis at New Vrindavan in those days. He said, yes, I remember. I said, you preached to him so strong to leave New Vrindavan and join Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party. But he didn't leave. And he smiled. He said, he's about the only person that I wasn't able to get. And I said, Maharaj, why didn't you try to get me? You spoke to me 3 hours and you never even hinted to me that I should join you. Is it that I was so useless and worthless? You thought I would just be a liability to you? He said, no. He said, I knew that you were so committed that you would never leave your prescribed duties. I think he was being polite as a great Vaishnav, but in truth he saw I was useless.
You were listening to Radhanath Swami on devotionalnectar.com.